Of course, I don't think I've really done a video on this channel in a minute, which has been West Coast based, a lot of trade news about the Eagles, but I've been stockpiling a bunch of news and information about the Eagles and a lot of their trade rumors and whatnot over the last couple of weeks, and thought, you know what, it's time to make this video. It's time to absolutely talk about it because there's a ton to go off. Of course, as mentioned on the channel, the Cats, Hawks, and Eagles have all joined the race for Jed Walter. I've spoken about it on the channel before, that there have been reports that Jed Walter is, of course, extremely interested in maybe going back to Perth. For those of you who don't know, Jed Walter was, I believe, born and raised in Perth. Again, just moved over. I think his mum moved him over just for a change of scenery and all that. Of course, joined the Gold Coast Academy and was drafted there. But there has been some interest. If they do offer him a big contract, he could maybe leave. Again, I don't think these other teams are pretty irrelevant in this race. Not only because I think the Eagles will have the money, but I also believe that Jed Walter surprisingly actually really fits the Eagles, because if you look at how all these players play, you've got Archer Reed, who's the big 200 plus centimeter guy. I think he's 202 centimeters, who plays key forward but can also play backup ruck. Then you've got Jake Waterman, who's a player who can lead up the ground, be a target down long, a contested guy, can take a big mark, but also just moves around incredibly well. You've then got Job Shanahan, who can play key forward, can also play key back. I've mentioned that I think he could be a key back long term, but he's a very versatile swingman who is extremely athletic and good in the air, a good mark, moves up the ground well, just very similar to Waterman. But if you look at Jed Walter, I think Jed Walter's that more stay-at-home, contested, crush the pack kind of marking key forward. And if you just listening to what I said in the last minute, you'll notice that every single one of those key forwards all do something different. And it's not going to be a situation where the Eagles would have too many key forwards in the team, because Reed can go and play ruck, while, Waterman can move up the ground, and Job Shanahan can be swung down back if they really need. He does it a lot at the end of quarters, and it's something that I think we could see further down the line. I've mentioned on the channel, don't be surprised if they do a Darcy Moore situation with him later in his career. Starts off as a forward, give him 5 years, and he maybe transitions to being a backman. Wouldn't be surprised. So I think Jed Walter would absolutely be a necessary target to go for. He fits their time frame. He's, of course, a part of the youth he would join, and he'd just be a great pickup. He perfectly fits them as a full forward. I absolutely love that one. We're also hearing, though, that the Eagles are reportedly interested in bolstering their backline here, with it being said that West Coast have shown interest in Joel Jeffrey, which was being reported by Will Faulkner of course, Fox. Again, West Coast are the latest club linked to contractors Suns defender Joel Jeffrey. Reports Fox Footy, Will Faulkner. The 24-year-old has shown known signs of wanting to leave the Suns. However, rival interest has also reportedly come from St Kilda in recent weeks, which I've also talked about on the channel. Now, this is an interesting one because Joel Jeffrey is contracted, and I believe contracted till 2028, which we know of, giving him another 2 years guaranteed at the Suns. So I feel like it would have to be a lot of money and a good trade package to try and get him out. And maybe Gold Coast are willing to let him leave if it was for the right price, because I think with the way Gold Coast is situated right now, they're hoping Charlie Ballard can eventually develop into being that positional player again, that third or fourth tall down there who can move the ball around by foot. Joel Jeffrey has really taken his spot since he's been injured for the last year, and he's had some continuity issues as well this year. I do wonder if they think, hey, if we let Jeffrey go and we bring in an asset, save some money here too, and then let Ballard get back to his role and find some consistency there, maybe that would be a good thing. So maybe this could be something that does happen. If West Coast went up to them and said, hey, we will give you, maybe an early second round pick. I honestly think Joel Jeffrey is that worth it. I think he's a really, really good player. An early second round pick, I think Gold Coast would look at that. They could use that to maybe try and trade for someone else who better fits their team. Joel Jeffrey fits their team, but they've got players who could replace him, if that makes sense. Joel Jeffrey, unfortunately for the Suns, though, still is better than the players that could replace him. For West Coast, though, it's fortunate that if they're interested in him and Gold Coast think like that, they could offer him some more money, get him out of the Suns, and they would have the necessity trade, package to give to the Suns to make it happen. This would be perfect for them. If you're taking into the stock that West Coast have of Harry Edwards as your number one fullback, hopefully he gets, his body right and whatnot. Of course, Tyler Young down there, Ruben Jinby, and of course, Starcevic. I think Joel Jeffrey would be a perfect addition to add to that. Could you imagine that? Liam Baker playing some halfback here and there as well. A couple other players they'd have. I think Jeffrey would be good because like Brandon Starcevic, he can defend tall, he can defend small, he can move the ball well, he's pretty good by foot. And I just think he would be a really, really good addition to try and, come to the team. So I think if I was West Coast, I would be all over that. I think that would be a beautiful one. Honestly, he fits them more than what he fits St Kilda. And I think Gold Coast would be willing to part ways if they got the right pick. Of course, Gold Coast will try and be greedy and ask for a future first or something. If I was West Coast, I probably wouldn't do that. I think you could get him for an early second. But he is a gun, don't get that wrong. He's a very good defender. One of the better defenders in the league, I would say. So, going to be interesting to see how that one does unfold and more. Of course, we have been hearing as well, and this is a really interesting one. I thought I'd save this to the end of the video because there's been some controversy about it. Jordan Lewis did say via Fox Footy that it would surprise him if Tim English was at the Western Bulldogs next year. Brandy saying, where's he going? Jordan Lewis saying, I can't say. Of course, Bevo did laugh about this, the Bulldogs coach, Luke Beveridge. He did say it's obviously not going to happen. He won't be at a different team. And I mean, Tim English saying, I'm looking forward to my future at the club. But obviously, I don't believe any of that at all. I do think if Jordan Lewis, who rarely comes out and says something like this, does say it, he has heard of something interesting. He has heard of, some fuel to the flame. It's very obvious. For one of those reporters to say something like that, that something has been mentioned. And if Tim English maybe does want to go back home, maybe he does want to go to Perth, they honestly, I think the West Coast Eagles would be 100% perfect to make this happen. Could Tim English, of course, go to a different team? I mean, yes, that is, of course, true. But as we know, he is from Perth, South Australia. Original team was South Fremantle in the Waffle. The thing with Tim English as well is this is not the first time that apparently there's been some WA interest there. I think it was years and years ago now. West Coast really, really wanted to bring Tim English in. It didn't happen. I think teams will look at Tim English. I think Richmond would be absolutely stupid not to look at Tim English. They desperately need a future long-term ruckman. Honestly, I think him and Nate could probably play together. That would be a lethal ruck duo. But I think West Coast are probably licking their lips right now and are saying, hey, we think Cooper Duff-Tytler and Tim English could be an even better duo, especially long-term. And that would work really well because, of course, Cooper Duff-Tytler can definitely play key forward. Don't be surprised if Cooper Duff-Tytler, who was compared to Luke Jackson on draft night, does obviously play a lot of full forward in his career. Maybe plays a bit of wing minutes, which I've said countless of times. I think it'd be interesting to chuck him on the wing and just see what happens. But also, I do wonder if he gets to the point where maybe even does what Luke Jackson does and plays some midfield minutes. You never know. If you said that about Luke Jackson in his first 3 years, you think you're crazy. But Luke Jackson's genuinely been doing that at times this year, just floating the midfield. Especially when Darcy was playing earlier on the season. Jackson quite literally was playing in the midfield, which was insane to think. But I think if Tim English played like 70% ruck, 30% forward, Cooper Duff-Tytler, 30% ruck, 70% forward, that would be a really, really insane thing to see. I would love that. Again, 70-30 for English, ruck forward, and then 30-70 to, of course, Cooper Duff-Tytler. Ruck forward would be it would be a crazy sight. It'd be a crazy sight to see. I think it would make a lot of sense. The issue is, he's contracted and whatnot. I think you'd have to trade up a lot. Obviously, they'd have a top 3 or 4 pick in this draft. It does look like. Yeah, I mean, the Bulldogs will ask for it, of course. Do you part ways with that? No. But if you're the Eagles, I do wonder if you think, hey, Tassie's coming in. Do we just draft another guy here without pick 3? You know, maybe bring a couple other players in the draft and then trade a bunch of future firsts to try and bring English in. I wonder if they think they're ready. Because if you brought in another midfielder maybe, like a Gus Teixeira, and then you did trade in like a Joel Jeffrey, could you imagine adding like, you know, Joel Jeffrey, of course, Teixeira, Luke English, maybe Tim English, sorry, you know, someone else in there, 4 players, of course, to the team that they've got now, which is already developing and growing rapidly. I think that would be absolutely insane to do. Again, I'm really hoping now that I'm making this video, I didn't call him Luke English a couple of times. I think that was a former Richmond player who never even played a game. I think he got delisted in like COVID or something, which is really sad for the guy. But I always say his name for some reason when I say Tim English. So if I made that mistake in this video, sorry. But yeah, there is still obviously a massive chance he just does stay at the Bulldogs. And maybe Jordan Lewis was, you know, maybe he had a couple too many vodka Red Bulls or something. I'm not exactly too sure. So we'll have to see, of course, what does happen, you know, all and more going forward. Again, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below, though. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for latest AFL content, AFL news, all of the above. Go and subscribe to my gaming/movie channel, which will be getting linked down below. Give me a follow on Instagram too if you haven't already. And most importantly, subscribe to this channel for all latest sports content, news. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys next time. Goodbye.